We are 9 days away from the NFL draft arriving, round one. It's here. We've been talking about these dynasty rookies for the last 4+ months, and we're getting closer and closer. And I am releasing my official rankings pre-draft. Of course, this could change post-draft, but my pre-draft rankings for each position. And I have 15 wide receivers for you today into 6 different tiers. As always, guys, if you like Dynasty content, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Help us get to 1,300 subscribers. You know, this wide receiver class, we weren't very excited about it. Obviously, the running back class, the tight end class, that's the cream of the crop, right? Those two positions, and the quarterbacks and wide receivers, which are generally more valuable positions in Dynasty. This draft lacks a little bit, but I think this wide receiver class is a little bit better than we're giving in credit for. And maybe it's not quite as top heavy as last year's, but there's definitely some players that you can find in round 2 and round 3 of your rookie drafts in the NFL draft. And I think there's going to be players here in this draft, some fantasy relevant guys. So we're starting off with my first tier and the only guy in tier 1, and that's Travis Hunter. Last time we did these rankings was pre-combine, and Travis Hunter was not on the list just because we weren't really sure what he was going to play as. I don't know if we're still not sure what he's going to play as, but I think we're a little bit more confident. The Browns are coming out and kind of saying they're going to take him. They've been talking up, his wide receiver abilities. And but then it just came out that Travis Hunter really wants to play both ways, right? He really wants to play on both sides of the ball, defense and offense. Now, he's not going to be able to do like he did in college for multiple reasons, right? The NFL is more physical. There's more games in the NFL. He's not going to be able to do it. But the man, if this guy's a full-time wide receiver, he is easily the 102 in this draft class, in my opinion. 102, 103 in this draft class. Best wide receiver in this draft class. The problem is there's still a risk here. There's a risk that maybe he plays 60% on offense. And even if he's really, really good, it's going to make him a little bit inconsistent. You need to be out there 80+% of the snaps. And so that's the risk with Travis Hunter. But from what I'm seeing when I do these Dynasty live rookie drafts with everyone, with our listeners, he's going pretty easily in the top, like in the first round. And usually sometimes he goes in the top half of the first round. So he is if he's a full-time wide receiver, he is the best wide receiver in this draft class, in my opinion. And he's all alone there in tier 1, which is kind of, deservedly so, because it's freaking Travis Hunter, the guy's an alien. The guy's an absolute alien. Into tier 2 we go. And the first receiver we have in tier 2 is Ted McMillan. By the way, I'm kind of putting these in order, like my rankings. Travis Hunter's 1, Ted McMillan 2, but they're in the same tier. So keep that in mind. Like, these guys, a lot can still change depending on how the draft goes. And I'm fine kind of any one of these guys. If you want to take someone over Ted McMillan that's in the same tier, like I would be okay with it. But Ted McMillan, he's kind of been the wide receiver 1 in this draft class since the get-go. He was the 102 in a lot of drafts, early on, back in January and February. He is falling a little bit from what I see in our Dynasty rookie drafts, and check out those videos, guys, on our channel. We put them out every week. We go live multiple times a week doing rookie drafts, and we'll continue to do so through the month of May. But Ted McMillan, he started off as like the 102 pretty easily. He has fallen. I see him fall to like the 106, 107, depending on his landing spot when we do mock landing spots and things like that. So I like Ted McMillan. I think he has a lot of good qualities about him. He's a big receiver, but I don't think he necessarily plays as like as that stereotypical big receiver. I think he can play in the slot, which is going to be key for fantasy. And I just think his skill set is really, really hard to find. A big receiver who can win on the outside, kind of move in the inside. He wins over the middle of the field as well. So, the issue with him is I don't think we're going to be super excited about any of the teams in the top 10. If he does go in the top 10, I don't know how excited we're going to be for him. Maybe New England is the one we'll be most excited because you pair him with Drake May, but Jacksonville, we're not going to be as excited. The Jets, Carolina, people just aren't really excited about Carolina. New Orleans, we're not going to be excited. Chicago, the Patriots and the Raiders probably are the best 2. Now, Raiders, it might be a little tough year 1, but beyond that, it will be pretty good for Ted McMillan. But he's in my tier 2. And he is up there as potential wide receiver one if Travis Hunter is not going to play as a wide receiver. Matthew Golden is up next, also in tier two for me. I talked about Matthew Golden as soon as he declared, and I said, man, I really, really like this guy. And I put him as high as my wide receiver 3, and that's where I have him now. But that was wide receiver 3 pre Travis Hunter, ranking him as a wide receiver. Now I have him as my wide receiver 3, even with Travis Hunter there. I'm just a big Matthew Golden fan, man. I think the guy, his numbers quite don't show how good I think he was, but I think he can win on all levels of the field, which is what I love about him. His ability to make catches along the sideline really will translate to him being able to play on the outside. He has really good speed, faster than I thought. That's for sure. And I think he can move around as well. So I kind of view Matthew Golden as like Jordan Addison, Jameson Williams type of production, right? Where I think he'd be the perfect Robin to someone's Batman. And, like Jameson and Jordan Addison are, I think he would be perfect in that type of role. And he has to get to the right team for that to be fantasy relevant. Like the Lions. I'm not saying go to the Lions, but the Lions are able to have a top 5 receiver in Amon-Ra and then a top 24 receiver in Jameson Williams. He has to go to the right team, but I can definitely see him playing that role for someone. And to me, he's my wide receiver 3 in this draft class. And then Luther Burden, also, I still have in here. I still really like Luther Burden a lot. I know a lot of people are saying he's a slot receiver. I don't think that's entirely true. Now, could he just be played as a slot receiver? Sure. But I think he can win on the outside. Like, you watch his film, and yeah, he played a lot in the slot, but the way he won was kind of like in terms of like outside wide receiver routes. Like he was more, he was playing kind of the slot vertical role a little bit, winning on the outside, even though he started from the slot. So I don't think he's strictly a slot player. Now that doesn't mean a team will draft him and use him as, though maybe a team will draft him and only use him as a slot. That's a possibility as well. But I still think he has a lot of potential, which is why I have him in this tier. I think potentially his ceiling is a little bit higher than someone like a Matthew Golden, in my opinion. And it's definitely higher than the next guy. So, Luther Burden's here, and he is my my wide receiver 4, and he's in tier 2 with Ted McMillan and Matthew Golden. I do hear a lot of people say, and then I'll move on, like, oh, his numbers weren't as good as they were, his 2024 numbers weren't as good as his 2023 numbers. And his raw counting stats, that is true. They were not as good. His percentage, his dominator percentage, which is the percentage of his team's passing offense receiving yards, was actually higher last year than it was in 2023. So I don't know if it was so much, if it was Luther Burden, an issue with Luther Burden, or just the Missouri offense. 2023, Missouri's offense threw for 3,400 passing yards, and Luther Burden had 1,200 of them. In 2024, they threw for 2,900, and Luther Burden still had 676 of it, and then 6 of their 14 touchdowns. So his dominator rating was still pretty high. Into tier 3, and he's sitting here in tier 3 by himself, is Emeka Egbuka. He's an interesting one. Like, I don't quite know how to place him. Like, I feel like in a vacuum, I would never take him over guys like Ted McMillan, Golden, and Burden personally. But at the same time, like, if he gets the right draft capital to the right team, then there's an argument. So I could see him moving into a tier, or maybe moving someone from tier 2 into tier 3 with Egbuka. But I kind of put him alone here in this tier 3. Like, I still like him as a player. I think he has a very high ceiling. Very high floor. I don't quite know what his ceiling is going to be. Now, if he's on the right offense, then he can be amazing. But we've seen from certain players, where they don't fall into the right offense, and then that just kind of kills them, because I don't know if they're going to be that alpha type of player, So I like Emeka Egbuka. I think he's a really good NFL. He's going to have a really long NFL career, a productive NFL career. I just don't know what his ceiling quite is, but there is some safety here. And of course, everyone has a ceiling. Like, everyone can break out. Everyone can be top tier players, whether we expect them to or not. And so there's always that possibility. So there's that safety aspect for Ibuka. I just kind of have guys like Tet Golden and Luther Burden as guys that I think have a higher ceiling than Ibuka, which is why I separate them and Emeka Ibuka into this tier of his own. So that absolutely could change once the draft comes. Into my tier 4, I have 4 guys for you. Starting off with Jalen Royals. I've been talking about Jalen Royals as my wide receiver 5 now for over a month or 2, and I still kind of believe that with Jalen Royals. He's the type of receivers that him and like Luther Burden are kind of the receivers that I typically enjoy scouting, enjoy watching, and prefer to take over other type of receivers like a Ted McMillan, for example. And those are those smaller, shiftier, really good route running type of players. And that's kind of how I view Jalen Royals. Incredibly productive at Utah State. His 2 years there, like if he didn't get hurt, he was going to have a massive year, like over 1,500 total yards. He had 38% and 39% dominator rating over the last 2 years. Ran well, ran a 4.42. His 10-yard split was the best, tied for the best of any receiver, which I kind of value 10-yard splits a little bit more than 40-yard dashes because I like to see the initial burst. And most players, there's very rare that you're running 40 yards down the field. It's much more likely that you're running 10-yard routes or less. So, for me, 10-yard split shows that initial burst, and he had tied for the second best with Matthew Golden. So that just gives you a little bit of a perspective there of Matthew Golden ran a 4.29. Jalen Royals ran a 4.42. They had the same 10-yard split. That means they were just as fast. They were equally as fast as they were in the first 10 yards. So I like Jalen Royals a lot. And he's the type of player that I just need him. I never see him mocked to the right team. And by the right team, I mean, just give me on a team, either day 2, round 2 or round 3, get me to a team where I can see you being the wide receiver 2. Don't put me on the Cardinals. You'll be wide receiver 2 potentially, but you'll probably be target 3. Don't put me on the Bears. Don't put me on, put me on a team where I can see you be the wide receiver 2, Jalen Royals, and the second target on the team. And I'll be excited about him. So I just never see that happen. Next up is Jack Besh from TCU. Really, really, really enjoy Jack Besh. Again, like a lot of people love the guy. I think he's going to be a top 50 pick, which would be awesome. A lot of people are making comparisons to guys like Puka Nacua and stuff like that. I just want to hold your horses. I hate player comps in general because people hear a player comp and they say, no way, he can be that. Or I can't believe you compared him to this player. You're not comparing their careers and what they did. You're comparing how they win and how they play. But you're not trying to say like, oh, when you compare someone to Puka Nacua, you're not saying they're going to be, this type of receiver. You're just saying they play this way. So I think he kind of really fits in to that power slot type of player. He's super versatile. He actually played tight end, I believe, for a bit there. And you can see it. You can see that kind of tight end mentality. He wins. He wins in the soft spots of the zone. He finds the holes in the zone. He has very, very sure hands. Is he this athletic freak or anything like that? No, he's not, right? He's not this amazing athletic freak or anything like that, but the dude's just super productive. He gets open. He's going to play that power big slot role. And he could, if he also plays on the outside, right? And I think he can. I think he can play all over the field, which is something I love about Besh, is his ability to play in the slot and thrive, but also play on the outside. So I just think he's going to be really, really good. Another kind of safe floor type of player. And, we'll see what team he goes to, and does he get top 50 draft capital? We will see. A player that is shooting up my board is Kyle Williams. I am a huge Kyle Williams fan. I'll admit I did not really scout the guy too much when coming out, originally, because he was kind of a sleeper. He was kind of a sleeper back in January and February. He's no longer a sleeper. He's consistently mocked in the third round. This guy is really damn good. And there's people talking about like he could go a lot higher than we expect, like a lot higher than we expect in the draft. And I would be ecstatic for that. I love watching the guy play. Like, man, when I first watched the film, I was like, holy crap. Like, I'm glad I watched this guy because I think he's going to be, man, I think the potential for Kyle Williams is kind of through the roof. Like, I give him potentially a higher ceiling than a guy like Besh, for example, or the next guy I'm going to talk about, just because if he puts it all together, like Kyle Williams could be awesome. I'm very curious. People speculating do the Titans, who desperately need a wide receiver, do the Titans try to pair, Cam Ward and Kyle Williams together because they played together at Washington State, and just incredibly productive at UNLV and Washington State. Kyle Williams here's his dominator percentage over his college career: 37%, 26, 32, 22, 38 last year. For 31% career dominator rating. So like the dude was just like, he was just the guy for his team every year he was in college. So watch for Kyle Williams, man. And I'm excited about him, and I could easily sneak him into like my top 6, top 5 wide receivers in this draft, depending on where he goes in the draft. Last one here is Jalen Noel in this tier. That at least is Jalen Noel out of Iowa State. I really like Jalen Noel. He's another one where like I don't quite know what the ceiling is for Jalen Noel, but when I watch this film again, I just tend to like players like Jalen Noel. That's kind of my type when it comes to wide receivers, versus his counterpart, his teammate in Jaden Higgins, who will be in this video. I kind of prefer guys like Jalen Noel over someone like Jaden Higgins. Those guys that can like the route running. To me, it's all about the route running and their ability to just after the catch to make moves after the catch, to break tackles. That lateral quickness and that ability to kind of get in and out of your routes really well. He tested off the charts at the combine, ran a 4.39. His vertical and broad jump were amazing. Had one of the better 10-yard splits as well. Productive the last couple of years at Iowa State, and gets open. Only a 14% contested target percentage, meaning, contested targets, what percentage of your targets have been contested. He has 14%. And that, by the way, does adjust for targets behind the line of scrimmage. That's taking those out. 14% is the third best in this draft class, behind only a couple other guys. So big fan of Jalen Noel. What's his ceiling? I don't know, but I think he could be like Josh Downs, and if Josh Downs is on the right team, if Josh Downs is on a team where they can throw the ball, as we saw with Joe Flacco, when Joe Flacco was the quarterback for the Colts for those, 5 games or whatever it was, Josh Downs was on an insane pace. I think he was on like 115 catch pace. That's what Jalen Noel could be. You just got to be on the right team. Into my tier 5, I have a few more guys here for you. Trey Harris is up next. So he would be my wide receiver 6, 7, 8, my wide receiver 9. I've all off season, all draft season, I've been lower on Trey Harris. And I'm sticking to my guns. I will say this. If there's a wide receiver that I am terrified of being wrong about, it's Trey Harris. He would be someone that I'd be terrified about being wrong about. Because if I'm wrong about him, I think I'm going to be very wrong about him. And even so much so, like generally I stick to my board. These are my guys. These are who I'm going to take. I'm going to reach on Trey Harris. I got enough dynasty teams where I'm going to want at least one share of Trey Harris, just in case I'm wrong. And there's a very good chance I'm wrong. I will be the first to admit that. Don't take my word for gospel. I'm not a professional scout. I just don't really know how you scout a guy like Trey Harris. To me, he ran like basically 3 routes, and I'm not trying to blame that on him. That's just the offense he played in. Does that mean he can't run other routes? No, I just really don't know how you judge. I know the numbers are through the roof, which is analytical people are going to love it. The yards per route run, the dominator, all of that stuff is through the roof. Even his combine was pretty good, right? Like 5.5 yards per route run is absolutely, that's just bonkers. I don't know if I've ever seen a yards per route run number that high, and that's what he had last year, which is insane, absolutely insane. Um, so I get it. I get why people like the guy. I just don't know how you can really evaluate him. He ran like three routes, in my opinion. It was a six route, which is a hitch route, run, turn, look back at the wide receiver, at the quarterback. There was a go route, just nine route down the field, and then wide receiver screens behind the line of scrimmage passes. There was literally catches that he made where he didn't even move. He literally stood there in his wide receiver stance. The ball came to him. He turns and catches and goes. Like, how do you evaluate something like that? And again, I could very well be wrong. I don't know. I'm a little bit, I see kind of, I think a player that I kind of see is like an Alec Pierce, like that type of level of production. Again, be careful with player comps, but the level of how you win in the NFL, I kind of see like an Alec Pierce type of player, right? Where it's just like, yeah, Alec Pierce can be relevant at times. He's probably going to go in the second round because teams are going to covet this ability of stretching the field and making the down the field catches and things like that. So I don't know. I think he gets vertical very, very well, and teams are going to value that, and that's going to give him good draft capital. I'm just hesitant on what that's going to mean for fantasy football. I think he'll be a valuable piece for an NFL team. I just don't know for fantasy football what he will exactly be. Alec Manner's up next. He seems to have fallen a little bit, which I don't completely understand. Maybe it's just other people rising rather than Manor falling. Just again, another guy that has insane production numbers. And we could talk about all the numbers we want. We could talk about 40-yard times, 10-yard splits, yards per route run, contested target percentage. The number one thing that translates to NFL and fantasy success is where you're productive. There's been very, very few wide receivers and running backs as well, but very few wide receivers that have translated to the NFL that just were not productive to a certain level in college. There's only two. It was like a Terry McLaurin and Jalen Waddle were the only two examples, I believe, since 2010, where they didn't have a career dominator of 20% or higher. Those two guys, and they were both very close, especially McLaurin. Waddle was a little bit down there. But Alec Manor, like his production numbers, 45% and 35% of his team's passing offenses over the last 2 years at Stanford, tested well at the combine, ran a good 40 time, had a good vertical, had a good broad jump. His 10-yard split is slow, 1.58, I believe it is, 1.58. So he ran a 4.44, but he ran a 1.58 in 10-yard split. And you kind of see that on the field. You don't necessarily see this huge burst off the field, but I'm just, again, he's not my type of receiver that I generally like, right? Those more bigger body, outside guys, contested catch guys. That's just not the type of guys I really go for. And in terms of wide receivers that I want to target for my team. Now, that being said, he did have a pretty good contested catch percentage, but he had 27% of his targets were contested. He just wasn't really getting open. That was only high. The only person higher than him was Trey Harris in this draft class. A couple guys tied with him, but he just wasn't getting open consistently, which is a concern to me because making contested catches in college is a lot easier than it is in the NFL. And it's very, very hard. That's why when you see guys who bust, a lot of times it's these contested catch type of guys who have a hard time getting open. Now you can succeed. Drake London was one of those in college, and he just had a really good season. Mike Evans was one of those in college, and he's been awesome for a decade plus. So you could definitely succeed. I'm not trying to say that. And then Jaden Higgins, another guy who a lot of people really, really like. I'm a little bit lower on. I see the potential, absolutely. If you're talking about, let's just say Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins, and someone told me I'm a time traveler, I'm from 5 years in the future, one of these two guys is a top 15 wide receiver in the NFL or something, I would choose Jaden Higgins. I think that's he has that potential more than a guy like Jalen Noel. But if that same time traveler said one of these guys was a bust and another one of these guys is a low-end wide receiver too for fantasy, I would say it's absolutely Jalen Noel. So that's how I kind of view those guys. At times, I will take a player that I think has a higher ceiling, more potential. I'm just not the biggest Jaden Higgins fan. Matt Harmon's reception perception on him was pretty bad as well. He's another guy that did test well. He tested well at the combine and things like that. Like he tested incredibly well. Not incredibly well. He tested well in the athletic stuff. And he was also productive at Iowa State. But again, just not my type of receiver. And I see the potential. I'll take a shot on him late second, early third of rookie drafts, depending on where he goes. We got 3 more guys for you guys that, like, at times I think I might take over my guys in tier 5 just because I like these players a little bit more. I'm just very up in the air in terms of, like, well, I don't know where they're going to go yet. And I see everywhere from second round picks to undrafted, like, or 5th, 6th round picks. Savion Williams is one of those guys. It's all going to depend on where he goes and really where he goes. If he goes to a team that I think is going to utilize his skills, which is use him like a Cordero Patterson, please. The guy is like insane with the ball in his hands, but he doesn't run. He's not a very good route runner, but the dude's just like insane with the ball in his hands. Like he is Cordero Patterson. He's Cordero Patterson. He's 6'5", 225. He's just really, really good with the ball in his hands. He can make contested catches. He's explosive, especially for his size. He's a good blocker. He can be used as a running back, as a quarterback, as a wide receiver. Not a great route runner at all, in my opinion. So if you line him up as an X wide receiver, he's going to bust. So it's all dependent on where Savion Williams goes and what team he goes to. That's really going to determine where I'm going to take him in rookie drafts. I've got 2 more guys for you here. Torrey Horton out of Colorado State. Big fan of Torrey Horton. I love his game. I really, really do like his game a lot. Again, I'm unsure where he's going to go. There's a very good chance he gets drafted in like round 5 of the NFL draft, and that's going to really push him down. I'll still take a shot on him, in the 4th round, but the historical hit rates for wide receivers drafted day 3 is just terrible. So I'm probably going to lean, that's going to drop him a lot on my board. I just think he's kind of like he's like Josh Reynolds, and that type of player. To me, he's a really good route runner. He has really good size. He's 6'3", 185. He has really, really strong hands. He can win versus press coverage. Now, he's a little bit slender. He's not the fastest guy at all. So there's other things that are lacking, but I just think the guy can win, and he can win in ways that I think translate to the NFL in terms of his route running, his ability to win and beat press man coverage off the line of scrimmage. Now, he does run in the low 4.4s, I believe, but it feels like the long speed is not quite there for Torrey Horton. And I really like it, incredibly productive as well. From year 1, he had 15%, 14%. So he was putting up numbers year 1, 58% of his team's receiving passing offense back in 2023. And then, 2022, 33 and 30% the last 2 years. He did get hurt this year. And so I really like the guy in terms of how he wins. I think it can translate. It's just all going to be dependent on where he goes in the NFL draft. But 15% contested target percentage was one of the better ones in this class. So it shows that his ability to get open. Torrey Horton, keep an eye on him. And then Tej Johnson, I still have here. I know people are concerned about the size and stuff like that. I still think teams are going to value Tej Johnson in terms of like what his ability to stretch the field is. He's 5'9", 165, which is obviously that's like outlier small. So that's going to be an issue with like blocking and things like that. Don't really have a great comp for him as that comes to mind, but like to me, he's like incredibly quick. He's explosive. He has good long speed. He at least tries the block, and he's just a playmaker, man. The guy's just a playmaker. In the right offense, he could pop in the right offense. He's going to need to be in like a 2022, Chiefs offense that is, I'm thinking like Patrick Mahomes offense that has 2 other guys out there and like Worthy and Rice, and then Tej Johnson's just free to roam, is going to make plays, And if Patrick Mahomes throws for 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns, you can have 3 wide receivers that are relevant. He's going to need to be in a type of offense, maybe the Bears. I would love that for Caleb Williams, playing alongside a Dunze, DJ Moore, let those guys do their thing, and Tez Johnson, does his thing. And if that offense clicks, like, you can get multiple guys, three wide receivers productive for fantasy. So Tez Johnson, I don't know. The size is probably going to make him get drafted a little bit lower, but I'm still a fan of his and think that he could be a player in the NFL. So there you have it, guys. That's my top 15 wide receivers. Appreciate everyone watching this. Be on the lookout for the running back video. We'll catch you guys all in the next video.